Welcome back to the 10 Tabs Open podcast. I'm your host, Alex Howell. And today on episode 3, we have a very good friend of mine, John Teasdale from Literacy KC. He's the deputy director and chief development officer over there. And John just has an amazing story that is quintessential Kansas City, quintessential Missouri. His dad was the governor of the state of Missouri. John went to Rockhurst High School, eventually Rockhurst University. But along the way, he just happened to stop at a little university called the University of Notre Dame and played on their well-known football team as an offensive lineman. John is one of the most positive people that I know. He has a great personality, and he has some amazing stories that you'll hear today. His organization has been fantastic, and he has been in the nonprofit sector for quite some time. So hope you guys enjoy. Thanks a lot for listening. And we're live. So we have John Teasdale, the third episode of the 10 Tabs Open podcast, and he is the Deputy Director and Chief Development Officer for Literacy KC. How's it going, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Now that we've had like a full conversation right before we start this thing.
Got to catch up. It's been too long.
Exactly, yeah. It has been, one of the most disappointing things to me, and I know we talk about this every time, but I realize it because I can never get the reminders to stop, are the Kansas City club meetings.
I know.
It's like all the 12-12 club meetings still show up, and it's almost just torture. Like, dude, come on, man.
It's such sadness that that place went away. That was such a great time. Good people.
Have you heard anything about the building since then?
I believe they have turned it into like a rental office, workout facility, event space.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, I don't know how it's doing. I know it's open.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope it's doing well.
Yeah.
But
I'll have to sneak in there and see if they still have the green carpet from the 12-12.
I know. I need to sneak in there too. See if they have the Wall of Fame still going.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That video you posted was awesome to see, and then I was just like, God.
I know.
Dang it.
It's just so sad it went away. That was such good times.
I know. Yeah, it's definitely, and it gave me also the excuse to go downtown every once in a while because I'm so like I feel like I work Lee Summit, Blue Springs, and that kind of corridor, and then the only time I go downtown is when I see Nikki or when we go to an event somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. But you're downtown all the time because you live in Brookside, and then Literacy KC, it's at like 30th and Troost, right?
31st and Troost, yeah.
31st and Troost, and that's a newer location?
Yeah, since August. It was originally a Jones Store building.
Oh, nice.
Then Operation Breakthrough, who's one of the best, if not the best, children's education and service agencies, bought the building as an extension because they needed to double in size.
Oh, nice.
And then they wanted they wanted an organization who could continue their education programs and educate the parents of the Operation Breakthrough's kids.
Gotcha.
So they reached out to us and invited us to be a part of it, and we said, let's get it on.
Nice. So what have you guys seen since you moved in August? Like, what's kind of been the goal, but two, like what has gone on since then?
Oh, it's changed the game. We've nearly doubled in size ourselves in just the first semester we've been in there. Yeah. We have our logo, our sign faces there's a huge ATA bus stop right across the street, so it faces that. Nice. And most of our students use public transportation, but just having our logo and our name at that intersection, which is totally turning over and changing not just Operation Breakthrough, but there's a lot of other kind of community services and other things that we're a part of. So just being in that footprint it's taking us to the next level already.
That's awesome. And I know like the Troost corridor is one that the city has been looking at for quite some time, but is the 30th and Troost area, is that one that they've really focused on, or is that just you guys and a few other organizations that have really come through and kind of put your foot forward and said, we're going to make this different?
I think it's a little bit of everything. The city, the county, the property owners are very united in turning that neighborhood into much more active, coherent, a lot of collaborations.
Yeah.
Really all stakeholders there have, I think, kind of agreed that it's better to work together and help each other.
Well, that's awesome. And the Literacy KC organization, like I was looking them up because, I mean, I know you work there, and I've obviously heard about them through a bunch of different people, but to actually look them up on their site at literacykc.org, like you hit programs, and there's half a page worth of programs that you all have. I mean, I know that you're the development officer, but I mean, you've got to be, intimately involved in some of those too. I mean, one thing that not surprises me, that's the wrong word, but one thing that really kind of inspires me with your organization is you have all of those programs and you look at the history, because they have a nice like about us section about what they've done, where they've been through their mission. But I mean, you guys have something that I think a lot of non-for-profits maybe don't have the focus on, but it really seems like the board of directors and the staff says, there's not a question of where the money's coming from. It's a question, or not a question of if the money's going to come. It's where it's coming from. And so we have to go out and find it and then hear the programs about why.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you've got a lot of staff. You have a lot of programs. I mean, who would you say is the kind of the head cheese? Who's putting all that together and kind of making everybody focus on that goal?
Oh, Jillian Helm, our executive director, has been just fantastic. She's been at Literacy KC for, I believe, 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Executive director, a little over 3. But she and our board and everybody really, I think, does a great job of just focusing on Literacy KC's one piece of the poverty puzzle, because of people living in poverty. There's all kinds of issues that they face. Our one piece is education, is the ability to read and write, do math, use computers, use email. Yeah. And then for everything outside of our target area, that's where the collaborations come in.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Jillian's been awesome of keeping us focused on our mission.
Awesome. And when you, when you've got all of these programs and you've got all this staff and you have, it seems like 1,000 events. It seems like every time you talk to you, you're organizing something. But when you have all of that going, I mean, that gives that's a long conversation to have about what we do, how we do it, what our focus is, and you can keep going and going and going. But you and I have been out and had drinks or gone out for lunch or something like that, and you normally have like a 60-second spiel to somebody when you're like, "Hey, here's this. Can you guys provide something?" And whether it's a gift card or donation or whatever it might be, like, what's your 60-second spiel to somebody who's just like, what the hell is Literacy KC?
Yeah, it's not 60 seconds. It's about 15 seconds. But it's nice because people can relate to it. It's not rocket science. I just tell people that we help adults and families read and write, do math and email so they can get jobs, leave public assistance, help their kids with homework.
Nice.
And that's really what we do. That's what our impact is.
Yeah. And that's a basic thing where that's going to bring out some emotion to people too. Like that's to think about helping your kids with homework, and some people aren't able to do that. I mean, that's a big deal. So that's awesome that you guys are doing it. And on the John Teasdale side, I think everybody in Kansas City at this point. It's like between you and Jake Jacobson, I think you've got all 2.1 million people in the Kansas City area covered.
Yeah,
but you've got a really cool history too, because you went to Rockhurst High School, played football there. And did you grow up playing football? Was that just always in the back? Because you're a big guy.
Yeah.
You're not like 5'11" like me. You're, what are you, 6'6"?
6'6".
Yeah.
I actually grew up, I was a swimmer and a basketball player were kind of my first two loves. And then as I progressed through high school and saw that there was an opportunity to get a free education from a football scholarship, that was pretty appealing too.
Yeah. Well, so you went to Rockhurst, and then the big step, Rockhurst is absolutely amazing, especially in Kansas City. But when you are able to say that you played football for the University of Notre Dame, that's a big, chest pumping, swell with pride kind of moment. So how did that happen from, Rockhurst High School to starting for the University of Notre Dame?
So I went on my visit, and I took a late visit to Notre Dame because we were in basketball season, so I had to wait until we had a break over a weekend, which doesn't happen often in the basketball high school schedule. But I just remember the main thing I remember was that it was snowing the whole time we were up there, and it was just gorgeous. And we stayed at a hotel off campus, and it was snowing at night, and you could see the Golden Dome. And my mom kind of started just to cry at the beauty, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I'll do this." Plus, growing up, and I still am Irish Catholic. If Notre Dame says, "Hey, we want you," then you're going. You say yes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But it wasn't a hard decision at all. I mean, it was really a dream come true.
And how many other colleges were looking at you at the time?
There were several. Stanford, Northwestern were appealing. I really like K-State.
Yeah.
Because I love Coach Snyder. He's a hell of a guy. And I wanted to be a veterinarian. And they have one of the best vet schools in the country.
Nice. Yeah, my niece was looking at that too. She ended up going to Drury for undergrad, but she was really looking heavy at Kansas State.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It's a top-notch facility. It was very impressive.
Yeah. And so you get to Notre Dame. How many years did you start? Like, what's the process when you become, like, when you know you're going to be, the Fighting Irish? Like, what's the process from, young green John Teasdale coming on campus for the first time to senior John Teasdale?
I was so scared that first year. The guys were so huge.
Yeah.
So I redshirted my first year, played on the scout team, just got bigger and stronger, and lifted weights twice a day, it seemed like. Then I played sparingly my sophomore year, special teams, kind of a backup role.
Yeah.
Then started my junior year, started my senior year, and then went back for my fifth year to try to go higher in the draft. And then that's when I injured the nerve in my neck, and that ended my career. But got my degree and traveled the country, made a lot of good friends. It was just an incredible experience.
Yeah, and it's something that's pretty amazing, because I know you talk about, is it St. Patrick's Day or is it Irish Fest that Kansas City has, where you do the march, like with the alumni and all that?
Oh, for Notre Dame?
I think so.
We do, well, for St. Patrick's Day, I walk with the Gaelic Athletic Club.
Oh, that's right.
In town. But the Notre Dame Club participates in the Gaelic Mass over Irish Fest over Labor Day. That's the Mass that they say in Irish.
Oh,
yeah, it's really cool. It is really something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you still do alumni events like throughout? Because I know you've met the coach at least once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Coach Kelly came last year.
Yeah.
And then I was honored this last fall with the alumni club. I guess recognizes one person a year with the Father Theodore Hesburgh, who was the long time president at Notre Dame, with an award, and I was very humbled that they recognized me with that this last year. Yeah,
that's
awesome. Pretty cool.
Well, your family's got quite the history. I mean, you've got you that obviously has had success at every level. I mean, going from high school football, and obviously before that, I'm sure at 6'6" and even slightly lower, you're probably pretty good at basketball.
I was pretty good.
And then scholarship to Notre Dame athlete, Notre Dame starter. Obviously, unfortunate that you had the neck injury, but at the same time, like, you go back and, I mean, you've worked at several nonprofits. You've worked, you had a stint with an insurance company, but then came back in a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people when I talk about you, it's like, it's cool that he, played at Notre Dame and he's done all those things, and I'm sure there are stories galore. But the thing that I was the most impressed at is one of the organizations that you worked for in the last few years. You came in kind of, I think, in similar capacity to where you are now. Mm-hmm. And there were, we kind of talked about the fact that they had events, but when you came on board, it was at the, Miners Studio?
Dane Miners Studio,
Studio.
Mm-hmm.
And it was absolutely packed, wall-to-wall people, and just an absolute success. And I probably saw more people at that event and had heard about it at that point than, I don't know if it was something bigger than they'd ever seen, but it was absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, it's like, that's just his Rolodex. Like, just gets on the phone. Like, he has no fear about talking to people, and that is not a normal skill these days, to just be able to send emails, talk to people, get on the phone, and you have it in spades. And that's amazing. So I'm sure that, that event had to be a lot of work up, but then you just work the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That event was very successful. It sold out weeks in advance, and broke the record for the revenue grossed, and luckily been able to translate that to Literacy KC.
Absolutely. And so what goes into an event like that? I mean, when somebody says we're going to do, and maybe it's events that they've had in the past that you have a scheme, but if you come in and they say we're going to try this new thing, here you go, John.
Mm-hmm.
What's your first step outside of, like, calling people?
First step is to call people.
You can tell how much I know about this stuff.
So I guess kind of the main infrastructure in the bones is just to get the date and the venue, get the caterers, set up the bar, kind of get the vendors set up, and then put together the sponsorship package, and lean on the board of directors, who have always been very supportive for their own contribution, their companies, their network, and then kind of start working my contact list.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's just, it all goes back to just telling the story, having a compelling case, which I feel we do at Literacy KC, and Luckily, our message resonates with people.
Yeah. And what's the, I know that there are a lot of programs. I don't want to like point one out and say this is the only one, but what is the thing that, you can kind of point to and say, like, this is our oldest program. This is where, we kind of hang our hat and say, this is what we've had from the very beginning. This is the one that kind of holds our message.
Yeah, that program's called Ticket to Read. It's an adult basic education program. So it's classroom-based, where we pay an instructor, a certified teacher, to lead the class. They're supported by trained volunteer tutors who kind of serve as classroom assistants. So then it's about 10 to 15 students per class. They meet, if it's a weekday class, they meet twice a week for 2 hours, or the Saturday class meets for 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
Because they just meet for once a week.
Yeah.
But we level our classes, so our curriculum kind of goes from a very beginning reader level, kindergarten-ish skill set, ABCDs, the word trees, at bat, fat cat.
Yep.
Yeah, you know that from your boys, right?
Yeah. Yeah. My first son is really taken off with letters, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what he's going to be doing in the next couple of years, but it's going to come fast.
Awesome. That's good. That's good. And then our curriculum goes up to about a high schoolish range, but that's our kind of our meat and potatoes. Our core program is the teaching, reading, writing, comprehension. Once they're at that level, then we interweave digital computer skills.
Nice.
into all of our classes. Yeah, there's amazingly about 1/3 of students who are brand new to us never touched a computer, don't have an email address.
Oh man.
And when you think about like just something like applying for a job.
Yeah. Sending a message to an old friend, applying for a job, like you said, homework with your kids. I mean, that's not necessarily the most basic thing, especially some of the homework that they come home with. But at the same time, like when you're talking about younger kids, you want to be able to do that, and what an unfortunate thing, but also what an ability that you guys have.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I think one of our oldest students I think she's in her early 80s.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but she had to take over primary care for her grandkids.
Yeah.
Something happened with the mom, I don't know, but she had trouble reading 3-syllable words to her grandkids, so she came to us, and those grandkids are going to be better off for the work and kind of sacrifice she's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, so talk about the one of the oldest program, the main program, quote unquote, if you will. But when you think about Literacy KC, I think I read that it's been around since 1985. So whose brainchild was it? Who started the organization?
So that was founded by oh my gosh, I'm having a brain spasm.
I have those all the time.
I can see her picture. It was founded by a group of volunteers who I think a number of them were educators, but
Gotcha.
I think they were frustrated, and this is all hearsay from different stuff people have told me. It's been so long, that they were frustrated with the school district they worked for because they were just passing kids through, even though they weren't educating them. So they recognized that. And it was true then, it's true today, about 1 out of 10 adults struggle with literacy.
Yeah.
So they volunteered and
1 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just had to do a double take on that.
Yeah, and that's a nationwide stat, unfortunately.
Wow.
But yeah, about 1 out of 10 reads 8th grade level or below. About 1 out of 20 reads. It's basically functionally illiterate.
Yeah.
But they founded us. We were called Lawbach Literacy. That was kind of the curriculum of adult basic ed back then. But yeah, we operated out of the basement of a church for a long time. We had no money, no paid staff, no fundraising. But yeah, they just did it out of the goodness of their hearts, and we've kind of evolved pretty drastically since then.
Oh, that's amazing. And I looked it up. It's I have the benefit of having the computer in front of me, but Catherine Matthews, is that right?
Yes, that is her name. Thank you.
Yeah. I only do that 4 times a day, so I totally
Thank you.
understand.
Yeah, I can see her picture. I can't believe wow.
Yeah,
my team is going to give me a hard time on that one.
No, I'll give you the worst one I've ever had. I worked at a bank when I was in Sedalia, and there were people that trained me and worked with me every day. And the very first Christmas party, I brought a friend with me, and I was going through and introducing everybody. So I was introducing, this is Rob, he's the president. This is Jesse, she works with me in operations. This is Denise. And I got to somebody that literally was on my right side. I worked there probably 4 days a week, part-time, and she was probably there with me 3 of the 6 hours that I worked there every week. or 3 out of 6 hours that I worked there every single day. And I went up to her and totally blanked. And it's her and her husband and about 12 people that I work with just standing in a semicircle around me as I'm introducing. And I just had to like own it. Like, yeah, my brain just went away. I'm sorry. So yeah, I know that fun. So Literacy KC, it starts in 1985. It's in the basement of a church, and then it sounds like they just kind of start getting funding. So what's the, you've got the up curve, and you start seeing like more and more programs come in, and then you're at I think it was HappyBottoms, right?
Yes.
That's the organization that you were in. You went from that organization to Literacy KC. Like, what drew you in? Because I know that you're, when you have a story, that's what we've talked about. That's like when there's a good story and it's a nonprofit organization, that's where you like to be. And so what drew you in from Literacy KC? Was it an individual, or was it a story, or was it a combination?
It was a combination. Just working kind of professional wise, I knew when Jillian started recruiting me that we were going to embark on a capital campaign to move to a new space, and that enticed me because I had never done a capital campaign before.
And what is a capital campaign?
When you specifically raise money to obtain a new space and add new programming, which is we're winding that up. But they were nice enough. I attended a staff meeting and got to meet the team and really respected them. Yeah. But what put me over the top is what I went to their Christmas party, and I met one of our students who's still one of our students. His name's John as well. And he told me his story. He had been incarcerated, was functionally illiterate, and was going to Literacy KC, working 2 part-time jobs, and just very impressive and very genuine guy. And yeah, I met him and heard how he wants to, get more involved with his kids and grandkids' lives, help them out. And
yeah,
I kind of thought to myself, yeah, I could do that every day. I could fight for students like John.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, to me, it's amazing because when you look at situations where you've got somebody like that who, I'm sure a lot of people when they hear incarcerated, their brain shuts down. Like, it's just, nope, but it amazes me when you meet individuals like that, when you have those one-on-one, just kind of personal experiences. And I've always told people this as well. It's like, if you travel, and you can travel within your own city, you can travel with that, within the United States, but especially if you travel outside of the country, you're going to realize something, and that's that you and the average other person, no matter what that person looks like, where they're from, any of their background information, no matter what, you're going to realize you have a lot more in common with them than you realize. And I'd never known that until we went out of the country several times. And, you read, or watch the news, or you read an article, and, it's, especially these days, it seems like 9 out of 10 are bad. But you hear these things and you just kind of look around and go like, well, how is everybody else not as normal as we are or in my space, in my bubble? And then you step outside and just go, yeah, they are. Somebody like that might have just had, a bad element growing up and is trying to better themselves now. Somebody that's overseas might have zero to do with their government or their corporation or anything like that. They're just trying to make a living. And so being with an organization like that, not only in the span that you have also worked with other nonprofits, but, kind of who you're working with, that has to open your eyes quite a bit to what people are going through.
It does, yeah, and I totally agree. I think there's more things that unite us than divide us, but and all of our students are, we set individual goals for each student, and by far all of our students want better jobs. They want to make more money. They want their kids to be successful and have better opportunities than they had themselves. And I think pretty much that everybody would want that opportunity.
Yeah, the same story as everybody else if you just took away who they are.
Yeah,
right?
What zip code were you born in?
Exactly.
Or did you grow up in a single parent household? Or there's just a very underlining element of what we do and what our students want to accomplish.
Nice. And is there because you think about people who go to certain high schools or go to certain colleges, whenever they get out, they want to go back and like help that organization. Do you have a lot of that kind of repeat thing? Like,
we do.
A lot of success here, so I'm going to come back and help out other people that were like me.
Yeah, we have a student needs committee, for example, who's either current or former students who are involved in helping our students with things outside of our wheelhouse, like getting bus passes or eyeglasses, things like that. And then we have a lot of students who are willing to tell their stories either through mail or email fundraising and marketing things or to speak at events. We actually have a wait list because students really like to speak at our events, which is fantastic because that's what the donor community, that's who they want to hear from, of what difference Literacy KC has made in our students' lives. And it's some pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that just speaks to your mission. I mean, you go to, name the event around town, and it is all focused around one story, or several stories, but one story in particular. I mean, that's just how you get your message across. Like, this is how we help. Or sometimes on the opposite side, you say, this is what didn't happen for somebody. Here's what we're trying to change.
Yeah.
And so, especially with an organization that's been around for 30 years, I mean, I'm sure you guys have a lot of stories with people. And so you have a waiting list. How many events do you have every year? I mean,
we have 3 main events.
Gotcha.
We do a trivia night in January. We do either a luncheon or a dinner event in the spring. And then our big signature event is we do a spelling bee.
A spelling bee.
Yeah. Companies will sponsor a team of 3 employees to spell as a team. And it's very competitive. There's a huge trophy that's at stake, bragging rights, live silent auction. It is an awesome event.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And how many people normally attend that one?
This year we're shooting for 500.
Wow.
This is our 25th Spelling Bee silver anniversary.
Gotcha.
So we're going to go big.
Very nice. And when is that?
It's Friday, September 13th at the Abbott.
At the Abbott.
Yes.
And where is the Abbott located?
About 19th and Cherry. It's kind of a new event space, but it is gorgeous.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a great venue.
Well, very cool. So, I assume if it's in September, you guys are already starting to go hard and heavy even on that event.
Yeah, very much so. We're got a great committee already formed. One of our board members is chairing it. He's going to be awesome. He's pretty sure he's got the inside loop on getting a classic car for an auction item.
Oh.
But yeah, the sponsorships are starting to come in, and it being the 25th anniversary of this event, we're counting on it to be very successful.
Gotcha. And in any of those events, I mean, whether it's a smaller event or a larger event, do you guys ever partner with some of the other organizations that you work with? I mean, the Breakthrough organization or anything else? Is it ever a partnership, or do you guys just kind of help each other out for your events?
Yeah, it's more help each other out.
Gotcha.
There's a few like grants that we'll partner on and approach some big funders on. For example, there's a domestic violence shelter that's right around the corner from us, and a lot of their moms need high school diplomas. So we've applied a few times for funding specifically for that group's moms for them to be able to come to our class for free and get their high school diplomas.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, yeah.
And just because this is something that I've always been fascinated by, but I have never really known what's going on with it. When you're talking about grants and funding, I remember looking at this for a company that I worked for a little while ago, and it was just an insane process for a business to ask for, just a small investment in something. So I've got to imagine that you guys are a 501c3?
Yes.
So I've got to imagine that for a 501c3 organization, there is very like a pile of paperwork that you have to go through to actually get all this done. Do you guys have a service that you do? Do you have somebody in house? Like, what's the process for actually getting those grants?
Yeah, we have a person in house. And then I assist a lot, and Jillian, our executive director, helps. But we approach mainly corporate foundations, family foundations. So the process it is complex, but it's not overbearing.
Gotcha.
Compared to other grants, for example, like government grants, state grants, where the paperwork and the red tape is almost mind-numbing.
Yeah.
And the detail and the reporting.
Yeah.
But luckily, because we have been around for so long, we have a pretty good system set up.
Gotcha.
For our grant writer to be successful.
Well, that's good. I mean, how many? I guess when you talk, so you have a grant writer, you have the chief development officer, your executive director. How many people are actually like full-time staff and part-time staff in your organization? I mean, how big are we? Because you said you doubled in the last few months, which is insane.
Yeah,
but I mean,
awesome.
I saw your website, and there's definitely like staff listed, but I mean, how many do you guys have?
So our instructors, most of them are part-time, and give me a little wiggle room. I want to say we're maybe 15 full-time.
Oh, wow.
And probably 7 or 8 part-time. And then the part-timers are the folks who teach the classes.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a small organization. That's a large, I mean, that's big. And especially if you guys are continuing to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've added new programming. We've added an English language learner program to teach people the English language, the goal is to have them come into our adult basic education program once they get the grasp of the English language. And then starting next month in March, we're going to add a GED high set, which is the high school equivalency, a preparatory program for that. And there's a huge need for that. The biggest, I guess, supplier of that program had to close its doors about a year and a half ago.
wow.
And we couldn't add that program till we came into our new space, just because we didn't have the classroom space.
Yeah.
So we'll add that next month.
Oh, well,
which
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Very good.
We get calls about it every day
I'm
from
sure.
people who want that program, so it's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, especially if the other place closed their doors. I mean, you guys are filling a huge need at that. But
Yeah.
probably a huge need even before they closed their doors, but especially now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. And so when you're, one thing that I'm always happy to talk about with regard to Kansas City is how many, or at least how active the city has been the last few years about really trying to get Kansas City on the map. And, I think Sly's done a good job, at least like really kind of being the voice, or at least the face, and trying to grow things. But the city government overall has at least seemed to step up and kind of say, like, we want Kansas City to grow. And so, whether or not you agree with certain projects or disagree with certain projects, I think it's important that the city is involved with, especially, with everything, but especially with organizations like you, and being able to say, like, okay, what do you need from us? Because if we're going to grow as a city, and especially with a program like yours, where, you're talking about a huge need. Obviously with the GED program, that's giant, but just getting people to be able to even take that test is huge. So do you guys work with the city? You said you work with the city, county a lot. What's that look like when you guys are talking to them? Are there certain individuals with the city or with the county that come to you, or is it, you guys reach out to them and say, hey, here's what we have, or here's where we need help?
Yeah, all kind of the local municipalities have been very supportive. Mayor Sly, for example, spoke at our fundraising luncheon last spring.
Oh, nice.
And with his focus on the kindergarten readiness and third grade reading level, and he knew exactly how important, because, kind of like you said with your kids, reading starts at home.
Yeah.
And so he understood that our students, our adult students, impact their kids' educations, and he tied that in. But it's all the city council, all the Jackson County legislature, the KCPS school board superintendent have been very supportive of what we do. We partner with all them, Penn Valley, Metropolitan, Community College, Independent School District. We've been really fortunate to have a lot of good supporters on on that kind of front, because I think they understand that ultimately Literacy KC's fulfillment for the community is that we increase our students' earning potential and income. We decrease the public assistance welfare because we get students off public assistance, and so it's a good investment to make in people. Yeah,
and in the classroom environment, and I know that they have instructors but I'm sure you're involved in that, or at least know that that's going on. When you're talking about like the students themselves, like when they're in the classroom environment, just going back to school with us, it's like you kind of have camaraderie, and they're people that form. Is that I don't want to say is that encouraged, because it seems pretty obvious that it probably is in some ways, but when you're talking about the inside the classroom environment, I'm sure it's not just like we sit here, we learn, and we have no communication back and forth. Like, do they kind of encourage, like, you guys need to get together, you guys need to help each other, like this is us doing this so that everybody succeeds?
It's a very family kind of environment. One thing we keep hearing from students is that there are people out there who, for example, they're 40 years old and can't help their third grade kid with their homework, and they think they're the only one in town with that issue. And then they come to Literacy KC, they see that there are other people trying to address the same needs and make that improvement in their lives. And then plus we're social creatures. We learn from each other. So if one student is struggling with this, odds are other students may be too. So it's very camaraderie. I wish you could see it like before and after class, just the laughing and the joking that's going on. It's pretty special.
That's fantastic. I was watching, I think it was another podcast. I don't think it was an article that I read, but they had somebody on that was a social psychologist, and they were like, that's part of the, their theory was that part of the reason that we've seen, so many, such an increase in depression in the last, 10 to 20 years is because we are social creatures, and a lot of the things that we do now take us out of that social environment. Whereas somebody like you just thrives in social environments. A lot of people just either don't have that, or they're not put in the situation where they can. And with people that work from home, or even some children's education now is almost 100% based online, if not 100% based online. You think about kids growing up like video games, and I mean, even my generation. I'm 32 now, and when I think about my generation, it's like there are people that I know that have a tough time when I call them, like just having a conversation. And if you take that out and you see that we're social creatures that are now put into individual environments, that's what you see. So if somebody not only isn't interacting with people on a day-to-day basis, but also thinks that they're alone in that feeling, that's got to be rough.
It's, I empathize with our students. I wish I could put myself directly in their shoes, but I can't. But that's really the biggest step for our students is to have the courage and the belief in themselves to take that step to come into class, because
as soon as you're in class, you're not the only one.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and they've survived their whole lives and competed in workplace environments without being able to read. I don't know how they did.
Yeah.
But they have.
Yeah.
So to be able to realize that opportunity is needed and the change can be made is pretty amazing that our students can do that.
Yeah. And this might be a question for you as an individual, not your organization, or it might be something that the organization discusses as well. But you hit on earlier that, with 1 in 10 people struggling with being illiterate in this country, that has to point a little bit to the education system. And, from my opinion, and maybe this is wrong, but it does seem like a lot of people teach for the test. And I don't, like this isn't a teacher's thing or anything like that. This is just a true, total environment. Put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. But this is just completely the environment. But if the goal is to push kids along, then it doesn't necessarily mean that you're focusing on the kid. And so when you all as an organization see this happening and somebody comes out of high school, especially the ones that have a high school diploma, and then you catch up to them 5, 10, 20 years later, and all of a sudden they're almost illiterate. Like, what happened between K through 12 that allowed you to slip by being illiterate? And what do you guys hear when you come through the door? Is it like they just pushed them along, or what's the story?
There's a lot of just pushed along. I think about roughly half of our students report either having attended high school or have a high school diploma. But it's a mix of being pushed along. It's a mix of, like I know one of our students, Charlotte, she told us that on testing days in high school, she'd just go and hide out in the bathroom, and somehow she just kept getting C's and and just kept pushing along. And then she turns around and she can't even pay bills and stuff. But honestly, some of it is parents who got pregnant early and had to drop out of high school to take care of their babies. We see a lot of that, especially with the partnership of Operation Breakthrough. So all their parents are really trying hard and doing good jobs.
Well, and those parents probably realize that this is ridiculously important, so they're pushing their kids to...
Very much so, yeah. Our math class is actually maxed out right now.
Oh, wow.
We can't add more students because so many of Operation Breakthrough's moms were pregnant young and had to drop out. And then now they're working for their GED, their high school equivalency, and they need a math refresher before they take the test. Wow. So they drop their kids off and then come across the street to us.
Wow.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's been great.
Well, that's great. And I mean, individually with those students, that's got to be, an inspiration to the organization too, to be able to say, like, these people are brave enough to kind of, I don't want to say put aside their ego, but that's really what it is. Like, they're brave enough to put aside their ego, because a lot of people just say, I don't need it, or I've waited this long without it. But they know it's important, and it's important to them. And it's like, you know what? I've got to finally just admit it and go back. And to be able to have somebody that's that brave walk through the door, it's like, okay, that's got to be 80% of the mission at that point. Now it's just studying. Now it's doing the thing that you said you'd come to do. Yeah,
very much so, yeah. A lot of our students say that they want to improve their own lives, but also through that to be an example for their kids. That's a resonating aspect that we see all the time.
That's awesome.
It's pretty awesome, yeah.
Well, as you see that, and people that are coming through, and they're doing it for their kids, and they their influences in the background. I mean, that's got to be pretty pretty amazing to you because I know that you come from a very good family, a family that cares a lot about, you and your success. And I'm going to bring him up because it's just the coolest story ever. But your dad was Walking Joe Teasdale, the governor of the state of Missouri. Is he still the last one from the Kansas City area?
Yeah. He's the only one.
The only one?
Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate.
I know. I agree.
So what was it like growing up with the gov? I mean, do you remember the campaign trail? Were you old enough for that whole process?
I was not. I was two. Two when we did not win re-election in 1980, when Reagan and all the Republicans swept out all the Democrats pretty much.
Okay.
But growing up, everywhere we went, everyone wanted to shake his hand and meet him. Yeah, it was pretty special. He was a hell of a guy.
Yeah. So why did he earn the name Walking Joe?
So he had no money when he was when he campaigned,
which you can't do now.
I know that's unfortunate. So he in 1972 when he first ran, he won in 1976.
Gotcha.
But he was prosecutor of Jackson County and had been for a long time. But he had no money, so his campaign manager and him came up with the thing to literally walk the state. And this was before I-70 was built, so they walked 50 through Sedalia and all that. And his campaign team would drive ahead to the next town and kind of set up a little town hall, and he would walk and just kind of meet all the people. And he had the same pair of shoes. We actually have him bronzed in my mom's basement now.
That's awesome.
He wore a hole through him.
Oh, geez.
but that's how he got the nickname Walking Joe. He walked the state to campaign and meet the people.
Gotcha. And when he won, I guess 76, that would have been the same year that Carter came in. So he kind of was a victim to the whole Carter to Reagan issue, is what you said.
Yeah, he actually won, I think, like 200,000 more votes in 1980, but the politics were so tough with gas lines. I mean, people had to wait in line to get gas in their cars. There was really no chance.
Yeah. So when you guys, you're two when he comes home and everything, but I mean, you said that everybody wanted to shake his hand. I mean, that having a dad like that was, I assume, at least partially a social butterfly. If he's able to have that many people,
he could work a room.
Yeah. So I mean, that's got to influence you a lot because that was kind of my question. It's like, okay, so if he won at a certain time, you're old enough to kind of have started to become a certain type of individual or a certain person. You're in school and that kind of thing. But if you're two when he leaves office, and you're the son of the governor, you're somebody who was watching this guy work a room all the time. It's like that had to be a huge influence on you and something that you just kind of like either got by watching him or you just had the genetic ability to do it. I mean, is your mom like that or is she?
No, she's not. She loves meeting people and talking to people, but she's not going to go table to table at events like my dad and I do.
Gotcha. And what did your dad do once he came back?
He went into private practice.
Nice.
He an attorney.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha. Did that for a number of years, and unfortunately, your family lost him. And I know that's been a little rough. But I mean, what a good dude. What a cool story. I mean, that's not many people have the background where they can say like, one, my dad was the governor, and two, we have his worn out shoes bronzed in the basement.
we still have this the state seal of Missouri, a huge wooden state seal. It's gorgeous, and I took it to show and tell one time in grade school, and I dropped it, and so there's a little knob knocked out of it still.
Nice. That's an even better story. Yeah. I'm sure it probably didn't feel like it at the time, but
no, I was so terrified bringing it back home. I was like, I broke the seal. But yeah, it was pretty special upbringing. Both my brothers and my mom, and really our whole family, whole extended family.
Yeah,
take a lot of pride in it.
Yeah,
it was.
I'm sure it's amazing. I mean, like I said, not many people get to say it. I mean, I was amazed when I ran for Congress as a third party candidate. I still had people that were like, "That's really cool that you did that." So I can't imagine winning and being governor of a state, especially the one that you live in. It's not like you guys won and then we're like, we don't want that. We want to move to California now. It's like you stayed here, the only one that's been in Kansas City. It's like, that's a huge deal. So I can imagine that there's a lot of pride in that. And speaking of your extended family, you guys have a lot of people in it.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, the videos on Thanksgiving with like that 27 turkey fryers.
Yeah. That Thanksgiving turkey fry is just incredible. We need to get you out to it. But it's all the Southie Catholics and all their friends.
Oh man.
But yeah, I think they had 15 turkey fryers set up, and everyone just comes in. The kids are running around, the dogs are playing, and the dads have a cigar and a couple drinks. And when the turkey's fried up, they go on home.
Is there a lot of Jameson consumed at that one?
There's a pretty fair amount. Yeah. Well, and my older brothers-in-laws are Tullamore Dew people, so there's a lot of Tullamore Dew as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But so you have older brothers?
One older, one younger.
Okay, gotcha. So you're the middle child. Nice. So I want to talk a little bit more about this turkey fry. So you have 15 fryers, and how many people come to this thing? Because you posted a video of it, and it's literally just 15 turkey fryers right in a row.
Yeah, it's
and
an
a bunch of
assembly
adults
line.
making sure the kids don't run into them.
Yeah.
And then it looks like in the video just hundreds of people just gathered around.
Oh, there's easily hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and I was only there for the last couple hours. They start very early. But yeah, they did. I'm trying to think. I want to say like maybe 150 turkeys this last year. Yeah.
Man.
But yeah, the local priests will come over and we'll cook their turkeys for their people, and it's just incredible.
And is it family and friends or just family at this point?
Family and friends.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. It's a lot of my older brothers, like where their kids go to school, a lot of those families.
Gotcha.
Some of my friends.
Gotcha.
In-laws, a little bit of everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
It started out many years ago where we had one turkey fryer. We cooked one turkey, and it just kept getting bigger.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
you need like a stadium lot at this point.
Yeah. No, yeah. They actually had to move it this last year because it got so big. It used to be at one of my older brothers' in-laws' house, and that was great. But then they decided to move it to the local country club where they all belong.
Oh my!
So we had it in the parking lot of that.
Well, that's when you know you're lucky. I mean, when you have that many family and friends that are coming out to an event, and I'm assuming you guys probably know most of each other. So that's pretty
it's very
nice.
much a reunion. Yeah, it's it's one of my new favorite traditions
Yeah.
by far. It's great.
And you're so no kids yet for you, but you've got. I see this on Facebook all the time. Like you spoil your nieces and nephews absolutely rotten because it just looks like you're the jungle gym most of the time.
Yeah, very much so. I don't think I've ever told any of them no.
And I'm sure your brothers love you for that.
Oh yeah. When I buy them cordless karaoke machines for Christmas. I've threatened them with drum sets, and
I actually did that to my brother. It was not. I realized it at the time, but I don't think I realized what a mistake I'd made until my nephew opened the drum set, and my brother just stared like daggers at me. I don't even think it was my brother. I think it was his wife that was just like, "You've got to. Like, we're gonna get you back so bad when you have kids."
did they set it up? Did they let him use it?
I think so. But it's probably like what my parents did to me. Like they'd take the batteries out at some point.
Yeah.
So it's like
it's broken.
Yeah, I had like a toy gun that was just like every time you clicked it was like. It's like all of a sudden one day it didn't work anymore. It was like, well, what happened? It's like, it must have broke. It's like, does it have batteries? No, it does. No. I mean, not anymore.
That's too funny.
Yeah. But I've also nailed some presents. Like there was one that I got like a little bicycle thing that you hooked up to the TV, and it was a video game, so it just took the energy away.
That's a good gift.
Yeah, and my nephew apparently would come downstairs and use it, and my brother was like, I was kind of frustrated because it was a video game, and then it was like, wait, he has a lot of energy, and now it's gone by like 10 o'clock in the morning.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's like having a trampoline or something just to get that energy out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you see anybody from the Kansas City Club these days?
Fair amount, yeah. I see Andy Funk, Mitch Kempker, Dan Nelson, Steve Bastash a lot.
Nice.
Talk to Steve Erickson, but he has a lot of kids now, so he doesn't make it out as much as he used to. See Cy Hunt a lot, but yeah, kind of that core nucleus that we have, I see consistently, not often, but
family obligations and everything else opening up, work, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's
they all grew up and started having families, and they're responsible people now.
And I'm sure tired all the time, just like us.
Yeah, but we do, and I need to invite you. We do that fishing trip every spring down to Rockbridge, the trout range.
Yeah, and I do think this year I'm going to do it. I finally have time opened up. So,
excellent.
Yeah. I've been trying to do that the last few years, but like last spring it was like we just had Archer, and the spring before that I can't remember. I think Nikki had like a trial or something, so she was out of town. So like it never has worked. Now it's like whatever date it is, I'm just blocking it off.
Good.
Like, nothing happening.
It's either the first or second weekend of April.
Nice. Okay.
I'll send it to you. But yeah, it's just Oh man, it is something. It is gorgeous.
Yeah, the stories that come out of that are legendary.
Yes, they are.
We'll talk about that.
There's a
off air.
good thing there's no cell phone coverage down there.
Well, yeah, it's like our lake house. It's not like we have big stories that happen there anymore, but it's like it's probably good that nobody can take video and immediately put it on Facebook. Like we have satellite internet, so that takes up a lot of bandwidth. But yeah, probably a good thing.
No, whenever I'm with my old Notre Dame teammates, we always joke and how thankful we are that there was no video cell phones back then.
Yeah,
because we would have been on ESPN
all the
time for the stuff we got away with.
Yeah, well, and it's weird because like stories like that, you obviously are just like, ooh, that's good. Like even me, I didn't do anything crazy. I wasn't part of a football. Like I was in theater. Like we did things that we thought were crazy. They were not crazy. But it's like now it seems like, man, if you make the wrong comment on any social media, ESPN's talking about it. And I can't remember if it was Kyler Murray or somebody. It was like they were holding off information on the guy. And then they posted it. It's like, how old was he? 15. Like, dude.
Yeah.
That was 7 years ago. But 2, that was 7 years ago. Like, he's 22. If he did it now, I wouldn't be as offended as, like, a normal situation.
Did it as a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that whole social media thing is just...
Yeah, it's a weird world, man.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm not... I have been better about, like, the way that I post and things that I post because now I realize, like, when Facebook started, I had the .edu address, so I think I joined in like 06, but 07 is when they opened it up to everybody because they were like, oh, we can make way more money doing this. And so when that happened, I just remember going, oh no, like I thought only my friends in college were going to see this, and now mom's on Facebook.
Well, they say that's like the Facebook account. If somebody applies for a job, that's one of the first things that the company will look at is their Facebook page, and if there's a bunch of rankus or whatever the word is, rowdy pictures.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's been a couple of situations where, a friend of mine will do like, the research online and, they'll find something that's just crazy or coworkers will complain and say like, hey, you might want to check out what this guy's saying, and you'll go on it and it'll just be some belligerent speech, from any party. I mean, anybody can be that way, but it's just like, dude, you can't just put that out there and think like, well, it's my page. Like it's called social media.
Yeah, and it is open to the public.
At least make your account private at that point. Like if you're gonna be that stupid, don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, that's
especially with an organization like what you work for. You're a representative to the public, so you've got to really be. It's like here's a picture of my dog. Throw the camera away or throw the phone away
That's
when we go on the trips.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm definitely trying to be somewhat responsible on the social media account.
Yeah, it was weird when I first, when we had Connor, I was just like, boy, that's a whole new angle too. Like not only do I have to be responsible professionally, not only do I have to be responsible for like the family and friends that are seeing stuff online now, but now I've got to be responsible because this stuff will be there forever, whether you think it will or not. So it's like now I got to be responsible because my kid might see this stuff. So don't, Connor Archer, if you're listening to this in like 2035, don't go to Dad's page in 06.
and don't talk to any of his Kansas City club friends.
No. Yeah, no. Of course, at that point, it's like, well, just do that, but I'll have more stories for their kids, too.
Yeah, that's true. You'll have the book on them, too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I honestly have to say, like, that's one of the places I miss the most is the Kansas City Club, because I think that was just a wonderful place to get, just have, like, your day or your couple of days every month and just escape and see friends and be out there doing your thing. What are you involved in these days? Or do you have any outside? I mean, I know you have outside organizations. Do you have anything close to that?
Nothing like the Kansas City Club, no. Unfortunately, I wish I did. Somewhat active in the mayor's race. Several friends of mine are running. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. But really for extracurriculars, it's dog, girlfriend, nephews and niece. So, yeah, I guess kind of chilled out a little bit, focused a little bit. So yeah, it's been pretty nice.
Gotcha. And have you gone to did you go to any of the Chiefs games this year? I assume you did.
Oh yeah. Went to the Jacksonville game, the rain game. That was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Went to both playoff games.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were at the AFC Championship game, and there's a picture I posted, I think on Instagram maybe, but it was like us, like you couldn't see. I had like this Mortal Kombat mask.
Yeah, that was a cold day.
So cold. Yeah. But I had that on, and you just see us in the background looking miserable. And then we like at the end of the game, like when we went into overtime, I hadn't moved my chair the whole time, and we were we were tailgating beforehand, so I'm just like sitting there crossing my legs, and I finally was like, no, I'm not going to see overtime because I got to go.
So you left?
I had to leave to use the restroom.
Oh no!
And then by the time I came back, they just marched down the field.
Yeah.
I'm like,
First, I can't believe you sat down during that game. We
were standing up the whole
okay,
time.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there was no sitting down. I mean, we were six rows up, I think, but it was like right above that little. It was the opposite side of the band.
Okay.
So where they got like a little Bud Light cafe set up.
Yeah.
So we were 2 rows up from that. So
Nice.
we were really kind of just 2 rows up. And when they were warming up, like Brady and Gronk were right there and everything. So a lot of fun stuff being said to those 2 guys.
Good.
But
yeah. Yeah. When we lost that coin toss in overtime, I knew it was over.
Yeah,
I was like, we can't stop these guys. That was.
Yeah.
But Mahomes and those guys are just.
It's got a future, man.
Yeah. It feels like the Royals did in like 13 and 14. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, these guys are going to do something.
Yeah. I was talking about that to somebody else. I think, I met Sean Flanagan for lunch. And we were talking about that. I was like, I remember 14. Like, I was ticked off that night. And then the next morning I woke up and was like, we just, one guy was in the World Series that beat us.
Yeah.
And outside of that, we win.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so that's pretty awesome to know that like we've had 100 lost games and now we're going against the best pitcher in the world at that year.
Yeah.
And that's all it took. And then of course like we just steamrolled the league the following year.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like the Chiefs are kind of right in that opportunity too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was neat in 15 because Connor had just been born, so he got the championship, and I was like, if Archer's born and the Chiefs get one, we're going to be very lucky. We're going to be a very lucky family.
Totally. That is very lucky. That's great timing.
Heck yeah. You're welcome, Kansas City. Of course, we didn't do it. We just won the AFC West and got to the championship game. But again, still awesome.
Mm-hmm. That is. That's, have another kid. Win us another title.
Oh, no. All done. All done. Shop's closed, everybody. So when you're around town and you're doing all this stuff, I mean, like I was saying, I think in the very beginning, like something that's always been impressive to me is when we go out to a restaurant, it's like, here's this, here's some of the stuff. Like how can organizations around town, can they help Literacy KC out? Like one, overall, like any time of year, but 2, especially like when you guys have events going up, what's the need you guys are really looking for?
I guess it would probably vary on the type of company. For all of our events, we do count on sponsorships.
Yeah.
And there are all kinds of awesome benefits that come from that, from tickets and signage, social media posts, things like that. For like hotels, restaurants, people who are in the service type industry.
Yeah.
To donate a gift card for us to either utilize as an incentive for students for like attendance and performance, or to auction off at our big event next spring.
Yeah.
The one thing everybody can help with, because everyone has old books at home that they no longer use.
Yep.
We'll take them.
Nice.
We need donated books, as many as possible.
Like textbooks and
not so much textbooks,
Okay.
but from novels and easy readers. Like for us, an example would be like Hunger Games is a great book.
Yeah.
The Harry Potter's lower reading skill needed to read it, but a page turner, and children's books for our family reading program.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all that's on our website at literacykc.org.
Nice. Very cool. Let's see, what else did I want to talk to you about? We've got so much out there. There's so many things that I want to talk about, but we have to do it off the podcast.
I appreciate that.
So what? Here's one. What made you go from? Because I know you started off in non-for-profit when you came back to Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
And then for a couple of years you worked insurance. What made you come back? Like, what made you leave, and then what made you come back to nonprofit?
I think the thing that drew me back was that I really kind of enjoy being what I kind of see as kind of the middleman between those who can give help and those who need help. I've been very fortunate in my background and my network to kind of be able to do that role and do it well.
Yeah.
And I love the nonprofit or the for-profit world. I worked for the Hake Insurance Company. They're just an incredible family.
Yeah.
And I loved working with like the business owners and helping their employees. But my passion is nonprofit work. So
Gotcha.
when that opportunity came, I took it.
Absolutely. And when you when you're working, like you said that you were involved in some of the political campaigns for mayor that are coming up. I mean, that's got to be one interesting because of the fact that it's a political campaign and you're talking about running for mayor of Kansas City and who's going to be next and next in line and that kind of thing. And I've already seen, it's like fantasy football numbers and people who are already started to like punch their ticket to run in 2020 for presidential elections.
Right.
Like all of a sudden a flood of people comes in and you've got to probably either choose like the couple that you're going to work for or the one that you're going to work for. What has been your role when you get into political campaigns like that? Are you same kind of thing as you do the non-for-profit, like just kind of work in the room, talking to people, getting them on board? And have you ever thought that walking John Teasdale might be potential?
No. I was, well, to answer the first question, it's more kind of advocacy. I don't raise money for them. That would be a conflict with my current job.
Right.
But, just as I'm talking to people, if that kind of stuff comes up, we'll talk about different candidates. But for me in politics, no. My dad taught my brothers and me early that politics it's a dirty business.
Yeah.
And he loved campaigning, and yeah, I would imagine I would enjoy campaigning, but once in office, like for example, my dad had a lieutenant governor where when if my dad left the state, then the lieutenant governor's in power, and he would put forward legislation that was in opposition of what my dad had done. Not because it was better legislation or better for the people, but just because he was of a different political party.
Oh, man.
And yeah, my
so he had a
opinion is,
Republican lieutenant governor?
Yeah.
That's got to be rough.
oh yeah, it's not that way anymore, but to work that hard just to be undermined all the time, I figure life's too short to want to help people and just have to bang your head against a wall to get it done.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting business because even the people that are the best at it still have to do those things. And the public might agree with it, the public might disagree with it, which is, again, a weird thing. But I just finished up, I should say I just finished up. It was a few books ago, but I went through a series on Theodore Roosevelt. And it was really good. Like, it was like The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, Theodore Rex, and then Colonel Roosevelt. It was like this I think it was like, I listened to it on Audible.
Okay.
That's how I listen to everything because I'm always in my car. But it was a really good series, but it was interesting because he was an absolute genius and like probably one of the most motivated people that we've ever had. I mean, to do a biography on that guy, it took 3 books. I can't imagine how many movies it would take to make a true biography about the guy. But they were talking about, there were 2 things that really stuck in my mind. The history professor that's a buddy of mine that'll be on the podcast who will probably have to correct this story for me a little bit. But he was assistant secretary to the Navy at one point, and the assistant secretary or the secretary of the Navy would eventually he'd kind of go off during the summer and take his summers at his house, and then he'd come back into Washington. And so Theodore Roosevelt would just be like, yeah, he didn't do this, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of it. But I'm going to take care of it the way that I want to take care of it.
Yeah.
And so he would, even though they weren't in session, he would still work all this stuff through. And the Secretary of the Navy was luckily kind of understood that this guy knew what he was doing, but also had to kind of lecture him like in modern terms, like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, all you have to do is write me. That's the only thing you have to do. And you
just check in.
Yeah. Just say, like, what do you think about this? I'll give my opinion. We come to a compromise. You throw it out. It's like, yeah, but that's not what I want to do. And so he just kind of run roughshod through these departments at times. And then as president, I think it was when he kind of took made all those national parks and national monuments and everything. Like, he just did one fell swoop of that. Well, right before, he kind of told the opposite party, like, yeah, I'm not going to, we're going to do stuff like that, but it's going to be really minor. So why don't you guys go off session? And then he just declared it immediately. And here's all this land that you can't touch anymore. And they're like, well, how do we trust you anymore? And with him, it was because 85% of the American populace loves me.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to deal with it.
Totally. That's funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, even people like presidents that you absolutely respect and you appreciate, I can imagine that, anybody in politics is still going to have to deal with just a bunch of crap. And there's no other way to put it.
Yeah. That is tough work.
Yeah.
I need to get the title of those books from you, by the way.
I've got them upstairs. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been, I went crazy this year on Audible. I was all biographies for the most part, and fell in love with Ron Chernow, who did, he just recently came out with the Grant.
I read the Grant and the Hamilton. The Grant book is fantastic.
Yeah.
It is so good.
Oh, man. So I read The House of Morgan was the first one that I read.
Okay.
And that probably doesn't appeal to everybody, but with my background, I just loved it because it went
J.P.
from
Morgan.
Yep, J.P. Morgan, but it went from his dad and how they got the House of Morgan started, and then it went to him, and there's of course a huge amount of information on that guy, and pop my neck real quick, and then his son, and then who took it over from there, and kind of probably mid 80s how it kind of split off and how it currently is, but it went through the entire history of it.
I would
so
definitely like that one.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got a bunch of there's only one, and I won't say it with the name of it. I'll tell you what it is when we're upstairs. There's only one that I read this year that I wouldn't recommend.
Okay.
And it was just on somebody from history that I wanted to read it because he's a very interesting character in history, but even his story I just never was interested in. But the Hamilton book was the one that I read right after House of Morgan. Same author and everything. And I went through that. It felt like I read that one in like 3 weeks or 2 weeks or something because it was just so good.
Yeah, it was good. I read the Hamilton at Lake of the Ozarks.
Nice.
At Alex Howells.
Nice.
Not Alex Howell.
Thompson?
Alex Thompson. Yeah,
Yep.
Thank you. Wow.
It's like, I don't remember you reading much in my place.
The words were very blurry. Well, and I got another author for you. I've been reading a guy named H.W. Brands.
Okay.
Who's a history professor at University of Texas. I'm just finishing up his one on Franklin Roosevelt. But he writes just like Chernow. It reads more like a novel than like a history book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I recommend him totally.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just downloaded the last one that I have to get through with him, and that's the Warburgs.
Okay.
It's a German-Jewish banking family, and it's like their story about how they started, and then they came to America and succeeded here too. And they're actually mentioned a lot in House of Morgan, so it was like, okay, well, that's a good way to kind of finish up the
good segue
stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Hamilton book was amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that he basically put together our entire financial system in the beginning and kept it like that for 150 years or something crazy.
Yeah. He was just an incredible guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, the fact that before the book and the musical that was based on him, I mean, Hamilton was kind of not as appreciated as one of the founding fathers as all the other guys.
Yeah.
And then now it seems like he's kind of getting his due.
Yeah. I can't remember if it was in the beginning, the epilogue or the prologue, when Chernow kind of talks about the fact that it's like he might not be, not only because, obviously the way he died and kind of his, he incited a lot of anger towards himself, we'll say. But he also, like, we never got to see him grow old. Like, because of the duel, everybody just sees him as kind of a younger guy. We don't see him with, everybody had the white hair at the time, but it's like you don't see him having older features in his face. So we don't think of him as like a founding father. We think of him as that one guy. But his role was absolutely pivotal, not only, pre-Revolutionary War, during the Revolutionary War, but especially in Washington, probably more so in Washington's cabinet.
Yeah.
So
the first Secretary of the Treasury.
Yeah.
Set up the banking system, our credit line. Yeah.
And Thomas Jefferson hated him and then had his Secretary of Treasury look up all the policies. And he was like, I can't find anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like, he did everything right.
Well, and he wrote the, the
Federalist Papers?
Federalist, yeah. I mean, he was the author of most of those.
Yeah, and you read through it, and it's like he was just throwing up chapters every day. And to have, if you've read them, it's like to have that amount of knowledge and understanding, even of the document that you helped to craft, but to really have that much understanding that you can just run through, 25, 50 pages to explain one block of the Constitution is absolutely incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think one of the longest lasting impacts of his doing those explanations is how many court decisions have been, when they try to interpret the intention of the founding fathers in the Constitution, they lean on those Federalist Papers a lot.
Yeah, because if you've ever printed out the Constitution, it's tiny. It's the doc. They add all kinds of laws every single year, and every single one of those laws is probably longer than the Constitution itself. But when you look at the Federalist Papers, it's it's the appendix. It's everything that explains that okay, so this statement means this, and here's the 15 chapters that or 15 pages that belong to that little statement. I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And then the Grant one. That was eye-opening because I think everybody kind of looks at Grant as like he had the most corrupt administration and he was just as, kind of worthless drunk after the war. It's like he wasn't at all. He was a hard-working, just very humble guy that probably just relied too much on people that were more successful than he was. But, an absolutely incredible person.
Yeah, he was amazing what he accomplished. And
The thing that stuck with me was when he was talking about, like, he would sell firewood, like, in his old, like, captain's uniform or colonel's uniform, whatever it was, and then they were about to give him a commission, but he felt that it was too low. So this guy that's making zero money was just like, nope, I'm not going to take it. It's too low rank for me. Wow.
That belief in himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they gave it to him, and he just destroyed everybody on this side
Yeah.
of the Mississippi, and I guess even further off. And so they're like, okay, well, he's the one guy that's winning. Let's bring him over to the East Coast and actually finish this war.
Yeah. Bring him up. Let him beat Lee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So did you finish that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually, so I get most of my books from the library.
Yeah.
But so I don't buy many books, but I think I might buy that one because I want to read it over and over again. Especially all the, during the war part I just loved with him and Sherman and their interactions with Lincoln.
Yep.
I mean, it's just incredible what those guys were able to hold together and keep our country together.
Yeah, well, and Lincoln just knowing that he could depend on him. Like he couldn't depend on any other general except for him.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the foresight to be able to see that in somebody in his position that's fighting a war and being blamed for everything, and to have just trust in one general that nobody has a really good opinion on except for maybe Sherman.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Grant was undermined by Halleck and so many people. And
Yep.
Yeah, with the and he had been a drunk, but they all try to bring that up all the time. And McClellan, and they just were D-bags.
Complete. Yeah, and I've just finished up Washington, which he has a lot of people like that too that just constantly tried to undermine him, and he just like kind of rose above the situation. It pissed him off, and they talk about like he was not the stone-faced guy that has been told throughout history. He had a temper, but he would just kind of let people bury themselves.
Yeah.
Then he was fine. He was good to go. But yeah, with Grant, a buddy of mine who, like I said, was going to come on. He was telling me about, I think it was Vicksburg. They were like going through the fog, and Trudeau paints a really good picture of what that battle looked like. It's like, they had so much gun smoke, and smelled like blood and all this other stuff. Horrible situation. But my buddy Corey was like, yeah. The other part of that is he was just kind of like, he knew he had more men. He's like, keep going, but it's foggy and we're getting shot at. Like, yeah, I know. We'll win. You're fine. Keep going. And like he just kind of pushed his guys, and it was like, even though he was taking losses, which he had, he got obliterated in the press for, but even though he was taking losses, it's like, this is how we win. So keep going, keep moving.
Yeah. Well, and he was one of the first generals to really incorporate land and water aspects with the gunboats and everything, that he had them run the gauntlet so they could get below Vicksburg on the river.
Yep.
And that's how they took him. But that was like a brand new concept back then, to incorporate land and water forces. And he saw it and he mastered it.
Yeah. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, do you want to end on that note?
Yeah, win the war.
Win the war.
That's a good one to end on.
Yep. So we obviously didn't end on the Literacy KC part, but I think you covered it really, really well. And so if we talked about donations, but how does somebody get a hold of you if they want to donate? I mean, obviously go to the literacykc.org. .org website. What's their office number there? Do you know?
816-333-9332.
And how does somebody follow you? Are you on social media? Do they follow you?
Yeah,
on that?
just Facebook and LinkedIn, just John Teasdale.
You'll know him because you've got the picture of you and your dog.
Yeah, look for the nephews and the niece and the golden retriever.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, what's your email?
J Teasdale TEASDALE @literacykc.org.
Awesome, man. Well, again, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.